Oh, hello. Welcome to today's Decay, where we celebrate births and beginnings of everything important since the dawn of time. Today is March 2nd, and there's all sorts of stuff to celebrate and take a moment or more and enjoy what happened throughout space and time. Today, 1886, Willis O'Brien was born. Willis O'Brien, here we are reading King Kong, a 1933 photoplay version of King Kong with stills of the film throughout and really great dust jacket artwork. You see that there? Yeah. So Willis O'Brien was a stop motion animator who created King Kong. It wasn't his first film. It wasn't his last film. There's been some recent developments that maybe he didn't come up with his own processes himself. But this other guy, who I'm blanking on his name off the top of my head, who animated along the Sunbeam Trail, is that right? I have the book over here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Herbert Dawley. Herbert Dawley. Major Herbert Dawley was his partner really early on when he was doing shorts. And maybe a lot of the stop motion animation concepts were actually his, and Willis O'Brien continued them. I don't know. But regardless, Willis O'Brien made all sorts of really great stuff. The Lost World, King Kong, Son of Kong, eventually he did the Black Scorpion, Mighty Joe Young. I'm not going in order here, but you know, he's great. If you look at the span of his career to how many films he made, you may be surprised to see that there aren't all that many, considering the decades he was working. Stop motion animation, of course, does take a lot of work, and the time it takes to make stop motion animation is very time intensive, or the processes are very time intensive. But he actually had a whole bunch of projects that he attempted to see to completion that just never got there. So, for instance, he started this one very lofty project called Creation that was all like dinosaurs and the span of the Earth, I believe. That never wound up getting completed, and they wound up using some of that content in King Kong. He also attempted to make a version of Frankenstein 3 years before the Boris Karloff Frankenstein was made in 1928 or so. His stop motion animation Frankenstein was going to involve a monster that was several stories high, like a homunculus, almost like golem looking character. There's production artwork and everything. This was he kept working on projects that just never were able to get off the ground. Another big one that never saw the light of day was something called War Eagles from the late 30s. That involved a lost race of Vikings riding on these giant eagles from the Arctic Circle or something like that, coming to the defense of New Yorkers because New York was being invaded by a fleet of Nazi Zeppelins. This is before we were in World War II, and it was deemed too timely and touchy a subject because a lot of Americans weren't really so sure that we should be against the Nazis because of, maybe a bunch of different things. But for one, a lot of people here were of Germanic background and weren't so sure they were the bad guys yet, right? Anyway, the shooting script and a whole bunch of production stills exist, and it looks like it would have made for a phenomenal movie. All of these unmade films I've read about for years, and we did a Phantom Creep Theater in Coney Island a bunch of years ago, where our characters are washed ashore on the beaches of Skull Island, which is where King Kong's from. And as we go from like scene to scene, basically on like the live stage script, our characters wind up meeting these different like half-made monsters who are all there just waiting. They're all like the monsters from his unfinished films. So like the homunculus, like the giant Frankenstein character, and the spider from like the Lost Spider Pit scene in King Kong, and some Vikings. Did I say that already? I might have said that already. Anyway, so they're all just there waiting for the return of the king, Willis O'Brien, to return to the island to like complete them. I thought that was, you know, some pretty good script writing on our part. Yeah. Some people ask, why don't we record these shows? And that's the whole point of live theater, is the relationship between the audience and the performer, and whether they're one-time performances or not, it's that dynamic that's like doesn't translate well to just sticking a camera in the front row or something, I think. Also, like, people are asking, why weren't we doing Phantom Creep Theater performances during COVID? And somewhat the same idea. Where's the people that we can reach out to and quite literally call up on stage and disembowel, rip out their organs and stuff? I don't know how to do that to you from here. So we haven't done that, but who knows? Maybe one day. That'd be nice. What else? Willis O'Brien, just to wrap up the Willis O'Brien story, Obi, as some people called him. So his biggest triumph, figuratively, literally, would have been King Kong, and it's was followed up like a year and a half later with Son of Kong. About a year and a half later, I think. In the time between the two, and King Kong premiered on this day, 1933. Yeah, and so between this date, March 2nd, and whenever Son of Kong was released, I don't know off the top of my head, his wife actually went crazy and shot and killed both of their young children, and then herself. And so when you watch Son of Kong, that was a Willis O'Brien who just experienced such intense sorrow, closed the door, escaped into this fantasy world of Skull Island and all these giant monsters, and just sat there and animated King Kong. I mean, like, just think of like the stop motion animation process of just how much work it is, how physical it is, of these tiny movements and trying to bring life and pathos into these inanimate objects. Sometimes when you consider like the difference between King Kong and Godzilla, for instance, there's real heart in King Kong that Godzilla, it's a whole different creature, right? King Kong, I feel like, is very much entwines with the sorrow and the soul of Willis O'Brien. Yeah, so it's a good day to watch King Kong over and over and over again. What else? 1962, the Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man premiered. What a classic. And in 1963, Science Fiction Theater with Cosmacina premiered, who was a local to Los Angeles horror host. Later on went by Mona Lisa. She was a contemporary friend with Forey Ackerman. Yeah, so here you go, March 2nd. A little long-winded, all good stuff. Say it's a Willis O'Brien day for us, for you. We'll see. Till tomorrow. Goodbye.